Hey, wily ambitious leader. We are excited to have you back with us for another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast. And today, I know I'm excited about this topic. I know, Carol, you're excited about this topic. And as we dive into the topic, I want to share that this topic of discussion was actually inspired by a conversation that I had recently with a conversation, but that happened multiple times with multiple female leaders. And
Yeah.
I had this aha moment of like, man, been going about this all wrong.
I love aha moments.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that, for the last couple of years, I've spoken a lot into how to reach peak performance without burnout.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, how to reach peak performance without burnout. And those either listening, like if you take your hand and create a triangle, right? You see a peak at the top, but the peak is lonely. Right. And I've been speaking into this a lot right now with our
Yeah.
event going on, right? With the Irresistibly Bold Leadership event, and speaking a lot into how I heard a lot that leadership was lonely. A lot of the men and women I've been speaking to have shared the same thing. I think,
Yeah.
Carol, you heard that. And so I realized this peak piece, right? Striving for this peak performance
Yeah.
is actually what's creating the burnout. And I'm
That's
like, okay,
incredible,
right. And I'm
right?
like, okay, so hold on. We stand for, of course, reaching that next level of success, right? And having
Hmm.
breakthrough results and using the brain to help neurohack your
Yeah.
success, right? To make it so much easier. So you're not
Yeah.
relying on the hustle, because the hustle is what leads to the burnout. And looking at, having integrated lives and creating these 10 out of 10 in different areas of your lives, and really creating your best life ever, right? Like
Yeah.
looking at that. And yet we know, because listener, we know you're a high achiever, right? We know that you strive, right? You are striving for the next thing. You do
Yeah.
strive to be successful. Achievement feels good. There's nothing wrong with
Hmm.
that. But when I thought about all the things that I've spoken into about how to reach peak performance low burnout, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it's the peak. It's the
Yeah.
peak that's creating that, right?
It's the peaks creating the burnout.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so,
And it's lonely, like you said.
yeah. So we flip it on its head, right? And then the peak is at the bottom. And then we look at it from a different angle, right? And and
Yeah.
and and I think, I mean, that's the stand that you and I are taking, Carol, for leadership, right?
Yeah.
Is looking at how do we get to flip the old story of what leadership was and used to look like, and let's stand
Yes.
for a new generation of leadership where it's not lonely at the top, where it's collaborative and it's based on relationship, and it is about being your true authentic self and being bold and owning your confidence and your worth,
Yeah.
and looking at it from a different angle. Because one other thing that I thought about, because I know you and I also work a lot with women, is this discussion around masculine energy, right? And I
Hmm.
think the peak, to me, feels like it's driven from the masculine energy, right? And even looking at bold, like I've defined bold to be, outrageously loving and daring, right? To have that love, the female energy, and the daring piece is just the masculine energy. But at peak, there's only room for like one energy, which tends to be the masculine energy. So that was another thing that I had this aha moment of like, okay, we flip it on its head. We're creating space. We're
Yeah.
creating, it's not lonely. You
Yeah.
get to
It's about the
practice.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
about the value you're putting in the world. And, you're bringing up a lot of thoughts in this discussion, this aha moment of walking away from the burnout
Yeah.
and yet having the best elevated performance, where it's not based on so much the masculine. This is something that's been huge for me because, hello, high achiever, are you like me and tend to overcommit? Because I have been the overcommitment queen. Yes, overcommitment queen. And one of my favorite sayings is that rather than take 20 different steps in one direction, I want to come back to taking, you know, 20 steps in one, or what is it? One step in 20 directions. I'm mixing up the saying. Rather than taking one step in 20 directions, I want to come back and take 20 steps. Has really helped me with the focus has been vision,
Mm-hmm.
standing in vision. Because when you have a powerful enough vision, it pulls you forward. You aren't having to work hard. I love what I do. It excites me. It gets me up in the morning. I'm passionate about it. I'm driven about it. The impact and the transformation that you and I are bringing to lives with the leadership and the neuroscience work that we do, right? And being off that path to burnout comes from having that powerful vision, knowing my
Yeah.
why, really going there, going deep and going, why is this meaningful to me? Why does this matter? Defining these things for ourselves, it it carries an energy around it. It carries yeah, just an energy when you have a vision and you make a declaration. This is what I'm going for. And you're committing, you're playing big, and you're laying aside all of those things that were holding you back, which we know you can't outperform your subconscious. So that's the work we really lean into so that you're actually reprogramming your subconscious, eliminating, neutralizing, erasing what is in there that's holding you back from that vision that you have in your heart. But that vision carries power and energy with it, and an excitement that, again, what would it feel like for you, leader, to get up in the morning in happiness, in
Yeah.
joy, in
Yeah.
excitement, having fun with what you're doing, having it be simple and come with a focus and a clarity that helps you to have the urgency you need to move forward.
And
Yeah. So,
and as you're speaking about that, Carol, you know, like, and I'm thinking about right the upside down triangle and that tip now down at the bottom, right?
yeah.
That's the vision,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It starts with the vision. You know, I've spoken a lot about, you know,
That's
building
true. And it's
your
like,
life and your business, your team, you know, whichever way you show up as a leader, but building that by backwards by design. And that backwards
yeah.
by design piece starts with that vision. And then
Yes.
that vision creates the blinders, right? Which we know that when we work with a lot of our clients, like it's a lot of distraction can come up, and we know that that's your brain keeping you safe, right? By the self-sabotage. But if you have that clear vision, that clear direction, right, it creates these kind of blinders, which creates
Yeah.
the border of that triangle, and then you're led in that direction, and then that way, right, your
Yeah. The
daily,
brain's working for you
yeah,
on your behalf all the time. And that's one of the things you and I do is we help you to paint a clear picture for the brain. And I call it a 5D picture. Used to call it 3D. Like we think of living in space as 3D, but no, time is 4D, gravity, electromagnetism is 5D. We can make your vision 5D for you because,
yeah.
you know, Alex, I know that one of the things that happened with the limiting beliefs, my brain wanting to keep me safe, was it clouded my vision. It got
Mm-hmm.
very cloudy and
Yeah.
unclear. And I was like, somebody asked me, "What's your vision?" I was like, where you can get to a point where you stand grounded and confident in what you're doing and what you know is important for you, right?
Right. Well, and all leaders have a vision, right? We know that you
Yeah,
have a vision. I mean, it might be a little vision, it could be a big vision, but there's something in you where you know what you want to create, right? Whether you have a
yeah,
vision for the relationship you want to have with your partner, when you have a vision for the business or your team and the impact that you want to create on this world,
yeah,
when you have a vision of the amount of income that you want to create, you know, this financial freedom, there
yeah,
you have some sort of goal or intention or something that you want to create, which becomes that guide and light, right? And that's
yeah.
it's you know, as we're I love this conversation, Carol, because as we're talking, I'm now imagining sorry, the flashlight, right? the
Yeah,
flashlight, and if you put it forward, it goes out in this like triangle, and it
it's
starts
true.
there. It's that guiding
It's
light.
the
And
beam
so
of light. Yeah.
I just love how we're having this conversation. All these things are coming back to, coming back some of the foundation of what causes, you know, we also work with men as well. I just want to say with the men and women that we have worked with, for them to experience burnout is that foggy vision, right? Is that lack of clarity,
Yeah.
is trying to outperform the subconscious, right? Which we
Yeah.
know that,
Trying to push through willpower, all of that. Yeah.
right? Not being clear on the priorities, not being clear
Yeah.
on what's important to them, trying to do all the things and be all the things and living their life on all the shoulds and the musts and the have tos, right? Trying to
Yeah.
build their life based on somebody else's vision for them, not their own vision, right?
Man.
Being
Yes.
lost, right, with the
Yeah.
self-doubt and the
The fear
criticism,
that comes up.
fears, right?
Yeah.
And so when we can look backwards at all the things that are being created, it brings us back to that home base, right? And back
Yeah.
to that intention. And we
The simplicity.
the simplicity, right? Why we do what
Yeah.
we do is fueled by why we do it. So that why, like it's just thinking about all the foundation of things that we work with we work with our clients, right? To create that
Yeah.
for them. It comes back to that peak. It starts at the peak at the bottom so that you can expand at the top and not burn out, right?
And you are that shining light. You are where it starts
Yeah.
because the vision starts with what's inside of you.
Yeah.
And um when that light starts to open up and spread and you know create the things that you want, like you said, in relationships and health and finances, in spirituality, in creativity, you are a creator. That's the way our brains are wired. We're wired to create things, and yet that gets stuffed down. Oh no, you can't do that. Oh no, that's not safe. That would be way too risky to take that action. Oh no, neighbor Joe over here, he had this experience when he tried to do that. You shouldn't do that. All of these messages we get that keep us from that shining light that's in our heart that wants to create something that's going to cause an elevated life for ourselves, and elevated relationships, families, communities, sorry, and an elevated world, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my invitation as you're listening to this is to really think about how you have been operating, right?
Yeah.
As you have been striving for this peak performance, right? And I've spoken peak performance like personally and professionally, because you're looking for creating that 10 out of 10 everywhere. And just ask yourself, like, how are you operating? Right? Are you operating solo?
Mm.
Are you operating out of fear? Are you operating out of scarcity? Right? Are you operating by this nervous, anxious energy, this pressure? And just just get intimate with that, right? Like in
Yeah.
terms of how you are showing up, and ask yourself, if I were to turn this upside down, and if I were to get really clear on what my intention is, what my vision is, what's important to me, right? Like we've spoken before about the
Yeah.
importance of values,
Yeah.
and think about how you can work in collaboration with those around you to create that, whether
Yeah.
it's in partnership with your partner to create that 10 out of 10 relationship, with
Yeah.
your children, with your colleagues, with your friends, with your family. What would that open up? Like that's the thing with
Mm.
with that upside down peak. It
Yeah.
opens up. It's that word
It's
expansion. I know.
expansive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that's your word, Carol, for 2023, right? Is being expansive. And then what possibility becomes created?
Mm.
And I that's what's powerful when we look at some of the qualities of leadership, is that powerful leaders have the ability to look at possibility versus having with the brain kind of wanting to shut things down, to
Yeah.
look at different ways of going about things, right? Which is
Yeah.
really powerful, especially when we know our job's
Yeah.
brain is to keep us in the safe and familiar, right? Our job's brain is to keep us from creating the things we want to create.
Yeah.
And so opening that up, opening up the possibility and changing the story. I think that's if I think about why we wanted to do this podcast, it was about changing the story, that it's no longer about leadership is only the top. It's no longer
Yeah.
about going through this journey alone. It's about standing for those relationships, that community building, that, helping leaders, helping those of you that are listening today know that you're not alone through this. I know that was
Right.
my story. Not only
Yeah.
was I taught that leadership was only at the top, I
Yeah.
felt alone. I
Yeah.
didn't think anybody else out there felt like me. I didn't
Oh,
think anybody else out there, right?
I have felt that way. And
That.
it just is still surprising to me the number of people
Yeah.
I talk to who feel that way. And yet, with the DNA research, again, we are 99% the same DNA. We
Yeah.
are meant to be connected. And in quantum physics, when you take a sister cell and you put one on one side of the earth and the other on the other side of the earth, whatever you do to this one happens to that one. There's things going on energetically, vibrationally, spiritually that we don't fully understand,
Mm-hmm.
but we have an impact on one another. And it's the divisions that we experience are illusions. They're false, they're lies. The truth is, we are connected and we aren't meant to do it alone. We are meant to support one another, to love one another, spread the love, and to let that beam of light expand. And when it expands, the things that begin to happen around us are seem miraculous, right?
Yeah.
I very much do. We start to see things that we didn't see before. We start to experience things that we didn't experience before. And earlier this year, I'm a person who keeps wealth tied up and I live hungry. But I was living a little bit too hungry, if you will. And working with my brain, with the way my brain works, using our tools that we use, wealth showed up in all kinds of unexpected ways, just pa-boom out of the sky. And that can happen for you too. That's why we're doing the work that we're doing. That's why I'm doing the Money Heal Your Money Stories masterclass series. And it's important for you to know what's available to you, the power that you have available to you. You don't have to burn out. You don't have to be striving and forcing things, but you can literally be shining. You know,
Oh,
I
I
love
love
that.
that. Well, and I love this idea of this light that we started to speak about today, because
Yeah.
as a leader, I mean, you impact and you empower other people around you. And so
Yeah.
by shifting that, by turning the peak upside down and
Yeah.
creating that openness in that space allows you to then impact more people,
Yeah.
right? You're able
Yeah.
to lead more, you're able to empower others more. And speaking of the empowerment piece, I want to extend an invitation today to our listeners to a workshop I'm going to be hosting on Saturday called the
Yes.
Irresistible Bold Leader Workshop. And
Yes.
I mean, the focus of this workshop is to help you really step into that confidence, right? Own your
Yeah.
worth, own your voice, own your courage, so that you
Mm.
can go out and create that bigger impact. You can go out and empower those around you, and just having and working through some foundational pieces that'll help you show up and operate as the bold leader that's inside of you. And
Yes.
we're
Yeah.
almost complete as well with the Irresistibly Bold Leadership event that's also going on right now as well. So you can jump in that, listen to that, which will give you some great tips and tricks to be able to, well, I say, let's say, to create the impact that you want to create without the burnout. Instead of reaching the peak
Yeah.
performance, go ahead and go out there and create that impact, right? live that vision without the burnout. And so there's tons of great content that has been shared throughout the week there. And then on Saturday, it's all about getting into action, right?
Yeah.
And
I love the word
defining that.
irresistible,
Yeah.
doesn't like who doesn't love that? Because I think often we have ideas that came from our past
Mm-hmm.
experiences,
Yeah.
negative ideas of leadership. And the majority of us out there have not identified as leaders. And Alex Lianne is going to take you into that space in a way that is really going to empower you. It's going to expand you because once you recognize that you're a leader and leadership is a good word
Yeah.
and it's irresistible and it's doing good things, it's a great use of power. That is where we're excited to see you shine.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So we're excited for you to experience that. And we want to thank you for tuning into another episode of the Unleash Unstoppable podcast. Go check out the show notes to get links to be able to get your ticket to the workshop, register for the event that has been going on this week, and then stay tuned. Keep your eyes open for Carol's next workshop. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Ciao for now. See you next week.
Bye.